The year was 7249 CE, and Earth had become a world of towering megacities, endless skies filled with drones, and oceans that shimmered under the glow of artificial lights. Humanity had advanced far beyond its ancient roots, mastering technologies that once seemed like impossible dreams. Yet despite all their achievements, there was one thing humanity had chosen to leave behind: its place in the galaxy. For 5,000 years, humanity had remained silent. The decision to withdraw from interstellar affairs wasn't made lightly. It came after a devastating war known as the Scourge. That conflict had nearly wiped out the human race, leaving scars so deep that no one dared to speak of them openly. Since then, Earth's leaders enforced strict laws ensuring humanity stayed hidden, avoiding contact with alien civilizations at all costs. For millennia, this policy worked. Humanity thrived in isolation, rebuilding what had been lost while ignoring the vastness of space beyond their blue planet. But silence can only last for so long. Jamin sat alone in the dimly lit control room of the lunar observatory, his eyes glued to the holographic display hovering before him. He was young, barely 30, but already considered one of the brightest minds in astrophysics. His dark hair was slightly messy, and his glasses reflected the soft glow of data streams scrolling across the screen. Outside the reinforced glass walls of the observatory, Earth loomed large, its continents bathed in sunlight. It was a view that never failed to inspire awe, yet today Jamin barely noticed it. Something unusual had caught his attention, an anomaly in the signals picked up by the observatory's deep space array. At first glance, it appeared to be nothing more than background noise, the kind of static that often filled the void between stars. But when Jamin ran the data through the analysis software, patterns began to emerge. Patterns that didn't belong to any natural phenomenon. "What is this?" he muttered under his breath, leaning closer to the display. He tapped a few commands on the console, isolating the signal. The lines of code shifted and reorganized themselves into something resembling language. It wasn't English or any human tongue, but it was structured, deliberate. Someone, or something, was trying to communicate. "Yunha," Jamin called out, addressing the AI assistant integrated into the observatory systems. A translucent figure materialized beside him, a woman with sharp features and calm, glowing eyes. Her presence was comforting, even if she was entirely synthetic. "Yes, Jamin?" Hyunha replied in her soothing voice. "I need you to run a linguistic decryption sequence on this signal. See if you can make sense of it." Yunha nodded, her form flickering briefly as she processed the request. Within moments, fragments of text began appearing on the screen. Words formed slowly, piecing together a message that sent chills down Jamin's spine. "To the humans of Terra," the translation read, "your time of hiding ends. Join us or perish." Jamin stared at the words, his heart pounding in his chest. This couldn't be real. After 5,000 years of silence, someone or something had found them. Not just found them, but summoned them. The implications were staggering. Before he could process what he'd discovered, alarms blared throughout the observatory. Red warning lights flashed, casting eerie shadows across the room. Jamin jumped to his feet, his mind racing. What was happening? Had the source of the signal traced its transmission back to Earth? "Yunha, what's going on?" he demanded. "The United Earth Council has detected unauthorized activity from this facility," she explained calmly. "They're sending a security team to investigate." Jamin cursed under his breath. If the Council learned about the signal, they'd lock it away, burying it under layers of bureaucracy. He couldn't let that happen, not without understanding what it meant first. "Can you mask the signal? Make it look like routine data collection?" Yuna hesitated, her expression unreadable. "I can attempt to delay detection, but it won't hold for long." "That's all I need," Jamin said, determination hardening his voice. "Buy me some time." As Yunha worked to conceal the evidence, Jamin copied the signal onto a secure drive. He knew he was taking a huge risk, but he also knew that this discovery could change everything. Humanity couldn't afford to ignore it. Not again. Minutes later, the door to the control room slid open, revealing 2 armed guards accompanied by a stern-looking officer. Their uniforms bore the insignia of the United Earth Council, the governing body responsible for maintaining humanity's neutrality. "Dr. Jamin," the officer barked, stepping forward. "You've been flagged for suspicious activity. We need to see your logs immediately." Jamin forced himself to remain calm. Of course, he said smoothly, gesturing toward the console. I was running standard diagnostics when an anomaly appeared. I'm still analyzing it. The officer narrowed his eyes, clearly skeptical. An anomaly? Explain. It's unusual, Jamin admitted, choosing his words carefully. I've never seen anything like it before. Deep space interference, possibly. I thought it best to document it thoroughly. While the officer examined the altered logs, Jamin exchanged a quick glance with Yunha. She gave him the slightest nod, confirming that the original data remained hidden. For now. After what felt like an eternity, the officer finally straightened. We'll take over from here. Return to your quarters until further notice. Jamin nodded, feigning compliance. As he left the control room, his mind raced with possibilities. Whatever this signal was, it wasn't random. Someone or something wanted humanity's attention, and based on the ominous tone of the message, they weren't asking nicely. Back in his quarters, Jamin connected the secure drive to his personal terminal. With Yunha's help, he delved deeper into the signal, uncovering additional layers of information. There were coordinates embedded within the transmission, pointing to a distant star system labeled Kalor 7. Historical databases identified it as a region once inhabited by the Vryn, an insectoid species notorious for their role in the Scourge. The pieces were starting to come together, but the picture they formed was anything but clear. Why would the Vryn, or whoever controlled Kalor 7 now, reach out to humanity after thousands of years? And why frame it as a demand rather than a plea for help? As dawn broke over the lunar horizon, Jamin realized he couldn't keep this secret to himself. He needed allies, people who would understand the gravity of the situation and act accordingly. But who could he trust? The council was bound by policies of non-intervention, and most citizens had grown complacent in their isolated existence. There was one person who might listen, though. Zhou, a historian specializing in pre-silence conflicts, had spent years studying the rise and fall of the Vryn. If anyone could shed light on the significance of Kalor 7, it was her. With newfound resolve, Jamin composed a secure message to Sujin, attaching a portion of the decrypted signal. He kept the content vague, knowing that too much detail could attract unwanted attention. Once the message was sent, all he could do was wait. Hours passed, each minute stretching longer than the last. Finally, his communicator buzzed, signaling a response. Sujin agreed to meet him discreetly at the archives bunker beneath New Seoul. It was risky but necessary. By the time Jamin arrived at the designated location, fatigue was etched into his face. The journey from the lunar observatory to Earth had been grueling, but adrenaline kept him moving. Inside the bunker, Sujin awaited him, her sharp gaze scanning the room before settling on him. "You look like you haven't slept in days," she remarked dryly. Folding her arms, Jamin managed a weak smile. "Probably because I haven't." Sujin raised an eyebrow. "So what's this about? Your message mentioned urgent historical context. Care to elaborate?" Taking a deep breath, Jamin explained everything. The signal, the coordinates, the chilling message directed at humanity. As he spoke, Sujin's expression grew increasingly grave. When he finished, she paced the room, her thoughts visibly racing. "If this is legitimate, and I have no reason to doubt you, it changes everything. The Vryn were supposed to be extinct. Their empire collapsed centuries ago. Whoever controls Kalor 7 now must have ties to their legacy. But why summon us?" Jamin pressed. "Why now?" Sujin stopped pacing, turning to face him. "Maybe they need our help. Or maybe..." She trailed off, her voice heavy with unspoken fears. "They're declaring war," Jamin finished for her. Sujin nodded grimly. "Either way, we can't ignore this. You need to bring this to the council. They may not want to hear it, but they don't have a choice anymore." Jamin sighed, knowing she was right. The council wouldn't welcome this revelation, but they couldn't afford to dismiss it either. Humanity's long silence had ended, not with a whisper, but with a thunderous call to action. As Jamin prepared to present his findings to the United Earth Council, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was standing on the brink of something monumental. Whether it led to salvation or destruction remained to be seen. One thing was certain, though. Humanity's days of hiding were over. The United Earth Council chamber was a grand circular room with high ceilings and walls made of polished steel that reflected the soft glow of holographic displays. Representatives from every continent sat around the massive table, their faces illuminated by the shifting colors of data projections. The air buzzed with tension as Jae-min stood at the center of the room, clutching a small device containing the evidence he had uncovered. Jae-min cleared his throat, trying to steady his nerves. He was used to working in quiet labs and observatories, not addressing a room full of powerful leaders who could decide humanity's fate with a single vote. But this wasn't just about him, it was about survival. If he couldn't convince them of the seriousness of the situation, humanity might face consequences far worse than anything they had endured during the Scourge. "Ladies and gentlemen of the council," Jae-min began, his voice firm despite the weight of what he was about to reveal, "I stand before you today because I believe we are facing a turning point in our history. For 5,000 years we have remained silent, hidden from the galaxy. That silence has kept us safe, but it may no longer be an option." He paused, letting his words sink in. Some members leaned forward, intrigued, while others exchanged skeptical glances. One representative, an older man named Hyun-seok, watched Jae-min intently. As a decorated military general who had spent decades preparing for threats both real and imagined, Hyun-seok understood better than most how fragile peace could be. Jae-min activated the device, projecting the decrypted signal onto the central display. The ominous message appeared in bold letters. "To the humans of Terra, your time of hiding ends. Join us or perish." A murmur rippled through the room. Some representatives gasped, while others whispered urgently to their neighbors. A young woman seated near the front raised her hand hesitantly. "What does this mean?" she asked. "Who sent it?" "That's what we're trying to determine," Jae-min replied. The signal originated from a star system called Kalor 7 Historical. Records show that region was once controlled by the Vrin, an insectoid species, responsible for much of the devastation during the Scourge. At the mention of the Vrin, the room fell silent. Even those too young to remember the war felt its shadow hanging over them. The Vrin were infamous for their relentless expansion and brutal tactics. Their empire had collapsed centuries ago, but the scars they left behind were still fresh in humanity's collective memory. Soo-jin stepped forward, joining Jae-min at the podium. Her presence commanded respect. She was known across the scientific community for her expertise in pre-silence conflicts. She gestured toward the projection, highlighting key details of the transmission. "The coordinates embedded in the signal lead directly to Kalor 7, she explained. "While the Vrin themselves are believed extinct, there is evidence suggesting remnants of their civilization survived. It's possible another species has taken control of their former territories, or perhaps the Vrin never truly disappeared." Another representative, a stern-looking woman with sharp features, interjected. "Even if this is true, why should we care? We've managed perfectly well without involving ourselves in galactic politics. Why risk everything now?" Hyun-seok spoke up, his deep voice cutting through the growing debate. "Because ignoring this won't make it go away. Whoever sent this message knows where we are. They know we exist. And based on the tone of their warning, they aren't asking politely." The room erupted into arguments, voices rising as representatives debated the best course of action. Some argued for immediate mobilization, citing the need to defend Earth against potential invasion. Others insisted on maintaining neutrality, fearing that any response would escalate tensions unnecessarily. Amid the chaos, Jae-min caught Soo-jin's eye. She gave him a subtle nod, signaling her support. Together they waited for the storm to subside. Finally, the council chairperson, a tall, imposing figure named Ji-un, raised her hand, demanding silence. When the room settled, she addressed the group. "We cannot act rashly," Ji-un said firmly, "but neither can we ignore this development. I propose we form a task force to investigate further. Dr. Jae-min and Professor Soo-jin will lead the effort, working alongside General Hyun-seok to assess the threat level and recommend next steps." Relief washed over Jae-min. At least they weren't dismissing the issue outright. Still, he knew this was only the beginning. Convincing the council to take action would require more than just theories and speculation. They needed concrete proof. Over the next few days, Jae-min, Soo-jin, and Hyun-seok worked tirelessly to piece together clues about Kalor 7. They combed through ancient archives, analyzed fragments of the signal, and consulted with experts in xenolinguistics and astrobiology. Each discovery brought them closer to understanding the nature of the summons, but it also raised new questions. One breakthrough came when Su Jin uncovered a series of encrypted files buried deep within the Council's classified databases. These files contained reports from reconnaissance missions conducted shortly after the Scourge. According to the documents, Kalor 7 had been abandoned following the collapse of the Vryn Empire, but not entirely uninhabited. Small colonies of scavengers and opportunists had moved in, exploiting the ruins left behind. "This changes things," Sujin said, showing the files to Jaemin and Hyun-seok. "If Kalor 7 is occupied, then whoever sent the signal likely has access to advanced technology salvaged from the Vryn. That makes them dangerous, not just to us, but to anyone else in the galaxy." Hyun-seok frowned, studying the information carefully. "We need to prepare for the worst-case scenario. If these scavengers have rebuilt the Vryn's weapon systems, we could be looking at another Scourge-level threat." As they continued their research, Gonha, the AI assistant who had helped Jaemin decrypt the original signal, detected anomalies in the Council's internal communications. Someone was leaking information about their investigation. At first, the breaches were minor, almost undetectable, but as the days passed, the leaks grew bolder, revealing sensitive details to unknown recipients. "It's sabotage," Jaemin concluded after reviewing Unha's findings. "Someone doesn't want us figuring this out. Or they're trying to buy time," Sujin added grimly. "If we're distracted by infighting, we won't see the real danger until it's too late." Hyun-seok clenched his fists, his frustration evident. "Then we'll have to move faster. Whatever's coming, we need to be ready." Their efforts culminated in a holographic presentation designed to sway even the most hesitant council members. Using data gathered from their investigation, Jaemin and Sujin created a detailed simulation of Kalor 7, complete with projections of its current inhabitants and potential military capabilities. The image showed sprawling wreckage surrounded by makeshift settlements, with signs of activity suggesting rapid technological advancement. "This isn't just a random distress call," Jaemin told the council during the follow-up meeting. "Whoever sent this signal is gathering forces, and they expect us to join them. Whether we fight alongside them or against them, we don't have the luxury of staying neutral anymore." Hyun-seok took over, his tone authoritative. "Based on our analysis, I recommend reactivating dormant defense protocols and preparing for possible conflict. We can't afford to wait until they come to us." The council deliberated for hours, weighing the risks and benefits of breaking their long-standing policy of isolation. In the end, a narrow majority voted in favor of taking action. Humanity would respond to the summons, but cautiously. A delegation would travel to Kalor 7 under the guise of diplomacy, accompanied by a small escort fleet equipped with experimental weapons. As the meeting adjourned, Jaemin felt a mix of relief and apprehension. They had taken the first step toward confronting the unknown, but the road ahead was fraught with uncertainty. He glanced at Sujin, who offered a reassuring smile. "We've done all we can for now," she said softly. "The rest is up to fate." Outside the council chamber, Hyun-seok approached them, his expression serious. "You two did good work. But remember, one misstep and we're back to square one. Stay vigilant." With preparations underway, humanity prepared to step back onto the galactic stage. For thousands of years they had hidden in the shadows, hoping to avoid the horrors of war. Now they were being dragged back into the light, whether they liked it or not. As Jaemin returned to the lunar observatory, he couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was waiting for them beyond the stars. Something ancient, powerful, and utterly unpredictable. Whatever it was, it had already begun to reshape humanity's destiny. The decision had been made. Humanity would no longer hide in the shadows of the galaxy. The United Earth Council's vote to respond to the summons from Kalor 7 marked the beginning of a new chapter, one that required humanity to dig deep into its past and resurrect tools of war long forgotten. Jaemin stood on the observation deck of the Lunar Fleet Command Center, staring out at the rows of dormant starships floating silently in orbit around the moon. These vessels were relics of a bygone era, their sleek hulls covered in layers of dust and debris accumulated over centuries of disuse. To Jaemin, they looked like sleeping giants waiting to be awakened. He wasn't alone. Beside him stood General Hyun-seok, his arms crossed as he surveyed the fleet with a mixture of pride and concern. For decades, Hyun-seok had trained for this moment, preparing humanity for the possibility of another galactic conflict. Yet even he couldn't deny the enormity of the task ahead. "We've got our work cut out for us," Hyun-seok said, breaking the silence. His voice carried a weight that matched the gravity of the situation. "These ships haven't flown in thousands of years. Reactivating them will take time, and luck." Jaemin nodded, his eyes fixed on the massive flagship at the center of the formation. It was called the Aegis Vanguard, a name etched into history books as the symbol of humanity's strength during the Scourge. Its once gleaming surface was now dull and pitted, but Jaemin could still imagine it cutting through space with unmatched power. "Time is something we don't have much of," Jaemin replied. "Whoever sent that signal knows we're here. If we wait too long, they might decide to come looking for us." Hyun-seok grunted in agreement. "Then we'd better get moving." Back inside the command center, teams of engineers, technicians, and scientists worked around the clock to bring the fleet back online. Blueprints and schematics filled every available screen, detailing the inner workings of ships designed centuries ago. Many of the original builders were long gone, leaving only fragmented records behind. But humanity had always been resourceful, and desperation fueled their efforts. Soo-jin joined the team shortly after the council meeting, bringing her expertise in pre-silence technology. She spent hours poring over ancient manuals and logs, piecing together how the old systems functioned. Her knowledge proved invaluable when she discovered a cache of archive designs for plasma cannons weapons, so advanced they had been deemed too dangerous to use after the Scourge. "These designs are incredible," Soo-jin said, showing Jaemin a holographic projection of the weapon. "If we can replicate them, we'll have an edge against whatever we face." Jaemin studied the image, impressed by its complexity. "Do you think we can build them in time?" "It won't be easy," Soo-jin admitted. "But if we focus all our resources, we might just pull it off." Meanwhile, Yoonha assisted the engineering teams, her artificial intelligence processing data faster than any human could. She identified potential flaws in the ship designs, suggested modifications to improve efficiency, and even helped troubleshoot issues with outdated power cores. Despite her synthetic nature, Yoonha became an indispensable part of the operation, earning the respect of those working alongside her. As days turned into weeks, progress began to show. The first few ships were brought back online, their engines roaring to life after millennia of silence. Engineers cheered as lights flickered on inside the cockpits, signaling successful reactivation. Each milestone boosted morale, reminding everyone involved why they were doing this. But not everything went smoothly. During one test flight, a frigate suffered a catastrophic failure when its quantum shield generator overloaded. The explosion destroyed the ship and claimed several lives, casting a shadow over the project. Questions arose about whether humanity was rushing into something it wasn't ready for. Hyun-seok addressed the crew after the incident, his tone firm yet compassionate. "We knew this wouldn't be easy," he told them. "Every step forward comes with risks. But giving up isn't an option. We owe it to those who came before us and to those who will follow to see this through." His words resonated with the team, reigniting their determination. They doubled down on safety protocols, ensuring such accidents wouldn't happen again. Slowly but surely, the fleet grew stronger. One evening, Jaemin found himself alone in the command center, reviewing updates on the Aegis Vanguard. The flagship was nearly ready, its systems restored to operational status. As he scrolled through the reports, Yoonha appeared beside him, her translucent form glowing softly in the dim light. "How are you holding up?" she asked, her voice gentle. Jaemin sighed, rubbing his temples. "I'm tired, Yoonha. This feels like it's never going to end." "It's a lot to carry," she acknowledged. "But you're not alone. Everyone is counting on you, including me." Her words brought a small smile to Jaemin's face. "Thanks, I needed to hear that." Yoonha hesitated for a moment before speaking again. "There's something else I need to tell you. I've detected unusual activity within the fleet's communication network. Someone is accessing classified files without authorization." Jaemin froze, his exhaustion replaced by alarm. "Are you sure?" "Yes," Yoonha confirmed. "It's subtle, almost undetectable. Whoever it is knows what they're doing." Sabotage. The thought sent a chill down Jaemin's spine. With tensions running high, paranoia spread quickly among the crew. Accusations flew, dividing people and slowing progress. Trust, already fragile, began to crumble. Determined to uncover the truth, Jaemin enlisted Soo-jin's help. Together, they traced the unauthorized access back to a junior engineer named Minsu. When confronted, Minsu confessed under pressure, revealing that he had been coerced into spying by an unknown contact promising riches beyond imagination. They said they'd protect my family, Minsu stammered, tears streaming down his face. I didn't want to do it, I swear. Though sympathetic, Jamin knew they couldn't afford leniency. Minsu was detained, and additional security measures were implemented to prevent further breaches. The incident served as a grim reminder that humanity's enemies weren't limited to those beyond the stars. They could also come from within. Despite these setbacks, the fleet continued to grow stronger. By the time the final ship was reactivated, the Aegis Vanguard stood at the forefront, flanked by dozens of smaller vessels. Weapons systems hummed with energy, shields shimmered into place, and navigation arrays locked onto the coordinates leading to Kalor 7. On the day of departure, crowds gathered across Earth and the lunar colonies to watch the fleet launch. Screens broadcast live footage of the event, capturing the awe-inspiring sight of humanity's return to the galactic stage. Cheers erupted as the ships ascended into the sky, their engines blazing trails of light against the darkness of space. Jamin watched from aboard the Aegis Vanguard, his heart pounding with anticipation. Beside him, Sujin gazed out the viewport, her expression a mix of excitement and trepidation. This is it, she said quietly. No turning back now. No, Jamin agreed. But we've faced challenges before. We'll face this one too. As the fleet entered hyperspace, leaving Earth far behind, Jamin felt a strange sense of calm wash over him. Whatever awaited them at Kalor 7, humanity was ready, or as ready as it could be. The journey ahead would test their courage, ingenuity, and resolve. But for the first time in 5,000 years, humanity was no longer silent. The voyage to Kalor 7 was long and tense. The Aegis Vanguard led the fleet through the cold emptiness of space, its engines humming steadily as it carved a path toward the distant star system. Inside the flagship, the crew worked tirelessly, preparing for whatever awaited them. For most of the journey, there was little to do but wait and worry. Jamin spent much of his time in the observation deck, staring out at the endless void beyond the ship's reinforced windows. He tried to focus on the mission ahead, but his mind kept drifting back to Earth. What if they failed? What if this journey ended in disaster? Every unanswered question weighed heavily on him, making it hard to sleep or relax. Yunha often joined him, her presence offering a small measure of comfort. Though she was an AI, her interactions felt increasingly human. She listened patiently as Jamin voiced his fears, offering reassurance when words escaped her programming. You're doing everything you can, Yunha said one evening, her voice soft. That's all anyone can ask of you. I just hope it's enough, Jamin replied, his gaze fixed on the stars. We're walking into the unknown. Anything could happen. Yunha didn't respond immediately. Instead, she projected a holographic map of the galaxy, highlighting their current position relative to Kalor 7. We'll reach our destination in 3 days, she informed him. Whatever awaits us, we'll face it together. Her words brought a faint smile to Jamin's face. Together. That simple word carried so much meaning now. Humanity wasn't alone anymore, not entirely. They had allies in each other and perhaps even in the strangers who had summoned them. As the fleet approached Kalor 7, sensors detected movement in the surrounding space. Dozens of ships emerged from hyperspace, forming a loose blockade around the star system. Their designs were unfamiliar, sleek, angular vessels with glowing energy signatures that pulsed like living organisms. Unidentified contacts, the navigation officer reported, his voice tight with tension. They're hailing us. Hyun-suk stepped forward, his hand resting on the hilt of his sidearm. Patch them through, he ordered. A holographic figure materialized in the command center, a tall humanoid alien with crystalline skin that shimmered under the ship's lights. Its eyes glowed faintly, and its voice resonated with an otherworldly tone. I am Kalith of the Zarnathi Collective. The alien introduced itself. You have answered our summons. We welcome you. Sujin leaned closer to the display, studying the creature intently. She recognized the name Zarnathi from ancient records. They were a species known for their telepathic abilities and diplomatic prowess. But why had they reached out to humanity? We received your message, Hyun-suk replied cautiously. Explain why you've called us here. Kaleth's expression remained impassive. Your arrival is fortunate. The Zetherian Empire threatens to consume all life in this sector. We require your assistance to stop them. The room fell silent. These Itherians? Jamin exchanged a glance with Sujin. Neither of them had encountered that name in their research. Whatever these aliens were, they clearly posed a significant threat. What makes you think we can help? Yunseok asked, skepticism evident in his tone. The Zetherians are powerful, Kaleth admitted, but humanity has a reputation for resilience. Your ancestors fought bravely during the Scourge. We believe you can do so again. Jamin felt a pang of pride mixed with unease. It was true. Humanity had survived unimaginable hardships in the past. But those battles had nearly destroyed them. Could they endure another? Before Hyunsuk could respond, Sujin stepped forward. If we agree to join your cause, what guarantees do we have that you're trustworthy? Kaleth tilted its head slightly as though considering the question. We understand your hesitation. Trust must be earned. Allow us to send representatives aboard your flagship to discuss terms further. Hyunsuk hesitated, weighing the risks. Allowing strangers onto the Aegis Vanguard was dangerous, but refusing might provoke hostility. Finally, he nodded. Very well. Send no more than 3. Minutes later, a small shuttle docked with the flagship. 3 Zarnathi exited the craft, their movements graceful yet deliberate. Kaleth led the group, accompanied by 2 others, 1 male and 1 female. Their crystalline forms refracted light in mesmerizing patterns, casting prismatic reflections across the walls. Inside the briefing room, Jae-min and Soo-jin sat across from the Zarnathi delegation, while Hyunsuk stood nearby, arms crossed. Tension hung thick in the air as both sides sized each other up. You mentioned the Zetherians, Soo-jin began. Tell us more about them. Kaleth gestured for one of its companions to speak. The female Zarnathi stepped forward, her voice calm but urgent. The Zytherians are conquerors. They expand their empire through force, enslaving or exterminating any who resist. Their technology surpasses ours and their numbers grow daily. And you believe humanity can turn the tide? Jamin asked, leaning forward. We believe you can weaken them, Kaleth clarified. Together we may stand a chance. Hyunsuk frowned. Why summon us specifically? Why not seek aid from others? Kaleth hesitated, exchanging a glance with its companions before answering. Humanity's absence has left a void in the balance of power. Your silence has allowed the Zetherians to flourish unchecked. Now we need your strength to restore equilibrium. The explanation made sense, but Jamin couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Why had the Zarnathi waited until now to act? And how did they know so much about humanity's history? Soo-jin seemed to share his doubts. How did you find us? She pressed. Our location has been hidden for millennia. Kaleth's crystalline features flickered briefly, betraying a hint of discomfort. We uncovered traces of your existence through ancient records. Your signal transmissions revealed your presence. Jae-min exchanged another glance with Soo-jin. Something about Kaleth's response felt evasive. Ancient records? Signal transmissions? None of it added up. Despite their suspicions, the council agreed to hear the Zarnathi out. Over the next several hours, the aliens outlined their plan, a coordinated assault on key Zytherian strongholds within Kalor 7. The goal was to cripple their supply lines and disrupt their chain of command. If successful, it would buy time for the coalition to regroup and launch a counteroffensive. As the meeting drew to a close, Jae-min found himself torn. On one hand, the Zarnathi's pleas seemed genuine. They were desperate for help, willing to risk everything to save their people. On the other hand, too many questions remained unanswered. Who were the Zarnathi, really? And what role had they played in summoning humanity? That night, Jamin met privately with Soo-jin and Hyun-seok to discuss their options. We can't trust them completely, Soo-jin argued. Too many details don't add up. Why wait 5,000 years to contact us? Why frame it as a demand instead of a request? Hyun-seok nodded grimly. I agree. But we also can't ignore the bigger picture. If the Zetherians are as dangerous as they claim, sitting on the sidelines isn't an option. Jamin sighed, rubbing his temples. So what do we do? Join forces and hope for the best? For now, Hyun-seok replied. But we proceed with caution. Keep our defenses high and watch for signs of betrayal. Trust but verify. The decision settled uneasily over the group. They knew they were walking a fine line between alliance and exploitation. Yet, deep down, they understood that humanity couldn't afford to hesitate. The galaxy was watching and waiting to see what Earth's long silent inhabitants would do next. 2 days later, the fleet entered Kalor 7. The scene that greeted them was chaotic and grim. Wreckage littered the space around the star system. Remnants of countless battles fought and lost. Survivors of various alien species drifted among the debris, their ships battered and broken. Among them were members of the Coalition, the Zarnathi's allies. Some greeted the arrival of the Aegis Vanguard with cautious optimism, while others eyed the human fleet warily. Clearly, humanity's reputation preceded them, even after centuries of isolation. As the fleet anchored near the Coalition's stronghold, Jamin gazed out at the battlefield. Fires burned in the distance, casting eerie shadows across the void. Somewhere out there, the Zetherians lurked, their intentions clear. Domination at any cost. "This is it," Jamin murmured, his voice barely audible. "No turning back." "No," Sujin agreed, standing beside him. "But we've faced worse. We'll face this too." For better or worse, humanity had taken its first step into the galactic fray. The silence was over, and with it came the promise of both danger and opportunity. The Coalition's stronghold was a sprawling space station orbiting the largest planet in Kalor 7. It was a patchwork of salvaged materials and hastily constructed modules, held together by sheer willpower and desperation. The station hummed with activity as survivors from various alien species worked tirelessly to repair damaged ships, reinforce defenses, and prepare for the inevitable assault. Jamin stood on the observation deck of the Aegis Vanguard, gazing at the chaotic scene below. Ships of all shapes and sizes crowded the docking bays, their hulls scarred from countless battles. Refugees milled about, their faces etched with exhaustion and fear. Despite the overwhelming sense of despair, there was also a glimmer of hope, a fragile belief that humanity's arrival might tip the scales in their favor. Yoon-suk joined him moments later, his expression grim but determined. "This is worse than I expected," he said, his voice low. "They've been fighting a losing battle for months. If we don't turn things around soon, it'll be too late." Jamin nodded silently, his mind racing. He had studied war tactics during his time at the Lunar Observatory, but nothing could have prepared him for this. The scale of destruction was staggering, and the stakes were higher than ever. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival, they were fighting for the future of an entire galaxy. Sujin approached them, holding a datapad filled with reports from the Coalition's leaders. "The Zetherians are gathering their forces for a final push," she explained. "They know we're here now and they won't wait long before striking." "What's the plan?" Jamin asked, turning to Hyun-seok. "We hit them hard and fast," Hyun-seok replied. "Their main fleet is massing near the outer rim of the system. If we can disrupt their formation, we'll buy ourselves some breathing room." It sounded simple enough, but Jamin knew better. The Zetherians were ruthless and well-equipped. Their technology rivaled anything humanity had brought to the fight, and then some. Still, they had no choice but to try. Preparations began immediately. Engineers scrambled to outfit the human fleet with experimental weapons scavenged from old designs. Plasma cannons were mounted onto frigates, while quantum shields reinforced the larger vessels. Hyunha coordinated logistics, ensuring every ship was ready for combat. Her efficiency was unmatched, earning her praise from even the most skeptical crew members. As the hours passed, tension aboard the Aegis Vanguard grew palpable. Soldiers checked their gear, pilots ran simulations, and strategists fine-tuned battle plans. Everyone understood what was at stake. This wasn't just another mission, it was a test of humanity's resolve. Finally, the moment arrived. The fleet launched from the station, forming a tight formation as they moved toward the designated coordinates. Ahead of them lay the Zetherian Armada, a vast sea of sleek, menacing ships bristling with weapons. Their energy signatures pulsed ominously, casting an eerie glow across the battlefield. "Stay sharp," Hyun-seok ordered over the comms. "Remember your training. We hold the line, or die trying." The first wave of Zetherian fighters surged forward, firing volleys of plasma bolts that lit up the void like fireworks. The human fleet responded in kind, unleashing torrents of energy that tore through enemy ranks. Explosions erupted in every direction, illuminating the darkness with bursts of light and heat. Jamin watched the chaos unfold from the command center, his hands gripping the railing tightly. Each explosion sent shockwaves rippling through the fleet, testing the limits of their shields. Casualty reports streamed in, painting a grim picture of the battle's toll. But humanity didn't falter. Pilots executed daring maneuvers, weaving between enemy ships to deliver crippling blows. Gunners fired with precision, targeting weak points in the Zetherian armor. Even the smaller vessels played crucial roles, using speed and agility to outmaneuver their larger foes. Amid the carnage, one pilot stood out. Lieutenant Minsu, the same engineer who had been caught spying earlier, had volunteered for the front lines after proving his loyalty. His ship darted through the fray, drawing fire away from the flagship and buying precious seconds for the fleet to regroup. "Minsu's doing great work out there," Sujin observed, her eyes glued to the tactical display. "He's keeping the enemy distracted. He's making up for his mistakes," Jamin agreed. "Let's hope it's enough." Despite their efforts, the Zetherians pressed forward relentlessly. Their flagship, a monstrous vessel dubbed the Eclipse, emerged from the haze, its massive cannons trained on the Aegis Vanguard. A single shot from those weapons could obliterate the human flagship in an instant. "We need to disable that thing," Hyunsuk barked. "Any ideas?" Jamin's mind raced. Then inspiration struck. "Unha, can you hack into their systems? Shut down their weapons remotely?" "I can try," Yunha replied. "But it'll take time and I'll need access to their network." "Get me close," Jamin said, determination hardening his voice. "I'll handle the rest." Without waiting for approval, Jamin grabbed a portable hacking device and sprinted toward the nearest shuttle. Hyunsuk followed him, grabbing his arm before he could board. "Are you insane?" Hyunsuk demanded. "You'll get yourself killed." "It's the only way," Jamin insisted. "If we don't stop that ship, we're finished." Reluctantly, Hyunsuk relented. "Fine, but I'm coming with you." Together, they boarded the shuttle and launched toward the Eclipse, dodging enemy fire as they approached. The closer they got, the more intense the barrage became. Shields flared brightly, absorbing hits that would have torn lesser ships apart. When they finally reached the Eclipse, Jamin activated the shuttle's grappling hooks, securing it to the enemy vessel. With Hyunsuk covering him, he stepped outside, tethered to the shuttle by a thin cable. The cold vacuum of space surrounded him, pressing against his suit as he made his way to an exposed access panel. Inside the cramped confines of the maintenance hatch, Jamin connected his device to the ship's systems. Lines of code scrolled across the screen as Yunha guided him remotely. "I'm in," Jamin reported. "Now what?" "Upload the virus," Yunha instructed. "It'll disable their primary weapon systems." Jamin initiated the upload, watching anxiously as progress bars filled slowly. Time seemed to stretch endlessly, each second feeling like an eternity. Behind him, Hyunsuk kept watch, fending off Zetherian soldiers who attempted to breach the hatch. Finally, the process completed. "Done!" Jamin exclaimed. "Let's go!" They barely made it back to the shuttle before alarms blared throughout the Eclipse. Its weapons powered down, leaving the massive ship vulnerable to attack. Seizing the opportunity, the human fleet concentrated fire on the crippled behemoth, tearing it apart piece by piece. The loss of their flagship sent shockwaves through the Zetherian ranks. Morale plummeted as their forces began to retreat, scattering into the depths of space. Cheers erupted aboard the Aegis Vanguard as the tide of battle turned decisively in humanity's favor. But victory came at a cost. Dozens of ships lay shattered among the wreckage, their crews lost forever. Among them was Lieutenant Minsu, whose sacrifice had helped secure the win. As news of his death spread, the crew mourned quietly, honoring his bravery in their own ways. Back aboard the Coalition station, celebrations were muted. The survivors knew the war was far from over. While the Zetherians had been pushed back, they remained a formidable threat. For now, though, there was a brief reprieve, a chance to regroup and rebuild. Jamin stood once again on the observation deck, staring out at the battered remnants of the fleet. Sujin joined him, her expression thoughtful. "We did it," she said softly. "Against all odds, we held our ground." "For today," Jamin replied. "But tomorrow is another story." As the stars twinkled faintly in the distance, Jamin felt a renewed sense of purpose. Humanity had proven itself capable of standing toe-to-toe with galactic powers, yet the road ahead would be fraught with challenges greater than any they had faced so far. For the first time in millennia, Earth's children had taken their place among the stars, not as observers but as warriors. And though the scars of battle would linger, they carried with them the hope of a brighter future.